Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our program tonight, Landfill to Lights, with a question mark. We have a distinguished panel here to discuss a proposition of putting solar panels up on the Oceanside landfill. My name is Tony Iovino. I'm the Assistant Director for the Oceanside Library. The library is co-hosting this with the Oceanside Civic Alliance Association. And so before I go any further, I want to introduce the head of that alliance, Joyce Lipton.
Hi, everybody. Oceanside Alliance was formed because we believe that there is power in numbers and that together we can accomplish things that we can't do as individuals. We've been effective so far, working on a couple of things, and we hope everybody joins us and provides opinions. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Joyce. Here at the library, we consider ourselves to be leaders in the community on a whole host of range of topics, including literacy and culture, but also in civic and acting as a community center. So we do host these types of programs on issues that are pressing to the Oceanside community, everything from opioid abuse to the condition of the roads. So we were delighted when it was brought to our attention that Rebecca Weissman, founder of the Oceanside High School C.A.R.E Club, who's with us tonight, was featured in an article in the Herald about this idea. And so we reached out along with Joyce and the Alliance to set this up. Just a couple of things about the library. We do things that we like to say no other library in the country does on programs, marketing, ways that we reach out to the community and be a part of the community. This week, in honor of Earth Day and Earth Week, we have a number of programs. On Thursday at 11 o'clock, we have a birding program for those of you who might be interested in birding. At 3 o'clock, we have a program on climate change. And then 5:30 and at 7 o'clock, we have arts and crafts programs for adults and kids. And then Saturday, we will be hosting our annual shredding event. You can bring your documents for shredding to the parking lot across the street from us from 12 to 2. At the same time, actually on the same day, Oceanside Safe, which is an anti-drug and anti-opioid group that formed at the library, meets at the library. They're holding a Shed the Meds over at the high school, and that's important to get that out of the trash stream. We are also collecting pet food for pets that are in the shelters through Assemblywoman Missy Miller, and that's tomorrow and also on Saturday. And you can go onto our website and check out all of the things that we do at the library. Without any further ado, again, for those of you who might have just come in, we ask that you put your comments into the chat, that you shut off your camera and stay muted during the presentation. And again, know that this is being recorded. I've introduced already Rebecca Weissman. Rebecca, you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca. I'm a senior at Oceanside High School. I'm also the founder of the Community Activist Recovering Earth Club. We go it by C.A.R.E Club. I've been working with the C.A.R.E Club on this project because it's pretty meaningful to me and my community, and I can't wait to share all about it with you guys.
That's fantastic. I did see at least one of our Board of Trustees, Janet Pearsall, who was just re-elected to a 5-year term, and thank Janet for coming out. And actually, Debbie and our boss, Chris Mara, just signed in. She's the director of the library, so we thank them for coming out and showing the support. So now, to get the presentation going, without introducing all of the panel members, I'm going to. Okay.
Sorry about that. That was my fault. I clicked it by accident. I had my mouse over. Yeah.
All right. We just want to make sure that nobody knows that nothing happened during that break in the thing. This is we're not for those of us who are of my age and older, we didn't lose 18.5 minutes of tape. All right. And so I'm going to introduce Chris Napoli, and Chris will introduce the panel members as needed. So thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. And Chris, it's all yours.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. We're definitely excited to talk about this proposed project in Oceanside at the landfill. I'm a volunteer with the C.A.R.E Club. I've been volunteering for, I think, about a year and a half now. And so along with Jay Blackman and Jill Weber and Rebecca, of course, we'll be presenting the information to you about the proposed project. And hopefully you have some great questions for us. We'll be able to answer them for you. If not, we'll provide you with ways to ask follow-up questions after the presentation is over. So I guess we'll get started. Tony, if you want to share the PowerPoint.
I made you the co-host so that you could share your.
Oh, so that I can
on your
share
end.
it. Okay, one moment. Sorry, I thought you were just giving me control. Give me 1 second.
No problem.
Okay. Oh. Okay. I'm not sure how to do this full screen, so apologies. Let me know if everybody's able to see it here. Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Let me just hide this as well. Okay, so I think we went through the introduction already. So the agenda is just going to kind of flow like this. We'll talk about the proposal for the solar landfill, how there are benefits to the environment, benefits to the community as well. Some New York State legislature that was signed into effect in 2019. Jay will talk about that. And then we'll get to Rebecca, who will give us a little bit of information about why, this project is important to her and why she's been participating for some time now. And then there's a little bit about what the town of Hempstead is doing. And then we'll have some frequently asked questions as well. So Jill Weber will close out the presentation there. So just so you know, the C.A.R.E Club is a national organization that promotes environmental sustainability and stewardship. Like I said, I've been volunteering with them for a while now, but they really, great organization. Again, we've been working with the town of Hempstead to get this, to find out what's going on with the proposal, but it's been happening for, I guess, about 2 years or 3 years now. 2018, winter of 2018 is when the proposal first went up. Again, we'll have the C.A.R.E Club speak as well. And Ready for 100%, that's the kind of the name of the C.A.R.E Club group that's kind of leading this project of helping to spread the word about solar as well. So that's where that little logo comes in there. Okay, so I was muted somehow. The proposed project is to build a solar field over the Oceanside landfill. And basically what that means is that they'll cover the field with approximately 50,000 photovoltaic cells. And the panels will generate approximately about 10 megawatts of electricity. And what that equates to is would power about 1,500 homes. And so just as a way for everybody to understand how the grid works a little bit, when electricity is generated and flows into the grid, the people that typically receive that electricity are the ones who are closest to it. So it will definitely be flowing right into the homes of Oceanside residents there. But the benefits of it are impact the whole entire region, which is great. So one thing that's great is that this is not the first time that something like this has been proposed. It's not a new concept and has actually been happening around the country for a while, but I just wanted to give a couple of examples here in New York. There's a converted landfill in Beacon, New York, which is right across the Hudson River from Newburgh, in upstate New York. And then there's one out in Holtzville, which is just a little bit north of Patchogue, called the Holtzville Ecological Park. And it's completed now, but this is a picture of what it looked like when it was being constructed. And so the thing about landfills is that there's not really a lot of things you can use landfills for once they've been capped. And they're called what's considered a brownfield, which is basically an area of land that is somewhat toxic because of the stuff that's in it. So using landfills, which don't really have or be very costly to use for other things, to cover them with solar panels is typically a good use of the land, because not only does it generate the electricity, but it gives the owners of the landfill the ability to earn money off of it, right? Which is good for the community. So I'm going to pass it off to Jay Blackman now to talk about the environmental benefits.
Yeah, hi. Just to give you a brief introduction, I got involved with all of this with C.A.R.E Club. Since I had retired from teaching in Valley Stream, I had been going to some of the town board meetings. And at this particular one that Chris has mentioned, in December of 2018, there was a resolution that was passed by the town board to look into the economic feasibility of whether a landfill would serve as a solar panel field. And I guess, the investigation of that is still ongoing. Cleaning our air, we've mentioned that Long Island has an F quality according to the National Lung Association, and Oceanside High School, where Rebecca goes to school, is only 2.7 miles away from the Barrett Power Center, power plant. If you haven't heard of the Barrett Power Plant, it's a peaker plant, which means it only goes into operation during the summer, usually when there's a large there's a big call for electricity when air conditioners are running. It was built in 1956, and it gives off nitrous oxide pollutants, causing smog and making it a little difficult for people with asthma to breathe. As a matter of fact, I had taught in Valley Stream, and as the years had gone by, the amount of kids who had problems with asthma had risen dramatically from when I started in 1973 to when I finished in 2006. The solar field will help avoid approximately 10,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide from our atmosphere. And they say these kind of peaker plants contribute to about 1/3 of the greenhouse gas that is let go in New York State, that is emitted in New York State. Just to give you an idea of what 10,000 metric tons is, there's some captions on the bottom next to a couple of the cars. It's showing that if you put 2,160 passenger vehicles on the road and drive them for 1 year, that's about the amount of carbon dioxide that comes out of the cars. The second one is a little interesting. It says 24,813,896. That is the number of miles driven in a year by those 2,160 cars, but that's sort of a way out number. And another interesting view of this is to think of the acres of US forests. If you have 13,060 acres of forests, they will absorb 10,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide. And that's a very, very large area. And I guess that's it. One other thing I wanted to say about the Barrett power plant is that it happens to be very close to the landfill. And if you have solar panels built on that landfill, to attach the solar panels to our grid in Oceanside, it would be very, very easy to do. because one of the problems is the interconnectivity. If you have all these solar panels, which will amount to about 50,000 solar panels on 50 acres of landfill, you need to attach it to our grid through the community, and that would be easily done. The governor had proposed repowering that Barrett power plant. They approximated the cost of repowering it with cleaner steam turbine engines to emit the electricity, to generate the electricity, would cost about $1.1 billion, which means that ratepayers would pay an additional $536 over a period of 10 years. So, you know, it would be costly, and it would still not be renewable energy. So if, you know, instead of having the Barrett power plant, if you have the solar panels, there would be absolutely no emissions of any kind of fossil fuel. Okay, the next one, community benefits. The first point is that the project will create local construction jobs from building and the installation of the solar panels. There was solar panels built in Mount Kisco that they say created 200 local construction jobs in building and installing the solar panels. And, you know, you could think of that happening right here in Oceanside. There'll be no cost to the town of Hempstead. Since the leasing of the land, the town of Hempstead owns the landfill, and they would lease the land to a developer who would handle all the construction and everything that goes into a solar field, including whatever has to be capped in addition to what's capped right now to prevent methane gas from coming through. There are structures that can be built that will not penetrate the landfills. There are 7 that we know of. I just went on a Zoom yesterday from Morris Ridge, New York, that had just completed their landfill. And, you know, terrific things can be done with that landfill. It doesn't just have to be solar panels. It could be other things alongside the solar panels. There is a developer right in Oceanside. I'm sure he wouldn't mind if I mentioned his name, because he asked me to present this in front of the town board. This is David Sheeran, who is the CEO of Empower Solar, who wanted on the public record that he's willing to provide $350,000 a year with an increase of 2% for the next 20 years, which winds up totaling $500,000 at the end of that 20-year period. That's about the length of the solar panels, of the use of the solar panels. It says in the last point, the solar field can also be used as a place for education, for field trips, for local schools, high schools, to learn about clean energy and how clean energy works. They also mentioned at the Mount Kisco landfill that they were able to build an apiary. For those who aren't familiar, an apiary is a place where you keep bees to make honey. And they used that. They brought in the local BOCES educational facility and had high school students take care of the apiary. And it worked out very well. Okay, that's as far as community benefits go. One other thing, they had said yesterday also that the developer of the Morris Ridge landfill had also contributed scholarships for graduating seniors in the local high school. So not only will they be paying for the lease of the land, they also do community service type things. So, you know, it's advantageous to in a lot of different directions. The last part of this is the New York State Legislature renewable energy goals. The CLCPA, as you see in the lower paragraph, is the Community Protection Act, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which was passed at the very last day of the 2019 legislative session in New York to fight climate change. And they have a list of, if you could see it on the side, of all the targets that are to be met to encourage the creation of renewable energy. The first on the list is the 85% reduction in GHG emissions, that's greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. And then you look down and it says 100% of zero emission electricity by 2040. The 85% reduction is the reduction in greenhouse gases crossing all of the sectors of a community. In other words, the generation of electricity, vehicular emissions, and also the emissions you get from heating homes. So that will be reduced by 85%. The 2040, the 100% zero emissions means that we will go totally renewable by 2040. And very important that we reach all these targets, because as we know, there's a lot of climate change going on and a lot of people who are dispossessed of their homes because of storms and flooding and droughts. And this is something that we really need. There is also something coming up that is coming up for a vote in New York State called the Climate and Community Investment Act, where the New York State legislature has to vote on $15 billion that will go for projects to pay for a lot of what's going on in terms of electrical generation. So, you know, New York State is leading the nation in making sure climate change doesn't affect us too much. Okay, you can go to the next.
Okay, Rebecca.
Rebecca, that's
you're up.
yours.
Hi, so like I said, I'm from the high school. I founded the C.A.R.E Club back 3 years ago due to the lack of environmentalists in my community. And after 3 years, we've recycled thousands of water filling machines. We've hosted numerous beach cleanups, promoted paper recycling, and promoted environmental awareness in our community. But probably our most notable achievement is the installation of 3 water filling machines that permanently diminish the plastic waste in our community. And the permanent part of this initiative aligns with the passion for our solar farm project. So currently, Oceanside C.A.R.E Club there's 97 signups. So that's 97 students ranging from freshmen to seniors, all passionate about environmental awareness. And this project is not only like popular among adults, but also within the student community. So when we were working with the C.A.R.E Club, part of the first steps of this was the petition. And when we went around to classrooms asking for students' approval, also like answering questions, every student was not only intrigued, but also wanted this to become something that would be put into action and not just talked about. And I personally believe that this project would put Oceanside on the map, not really as like a tourist attraction, but just as a community that is like forward thinking. And I also think that the solar farm would be multi-useful. I could see in future years that the high school or elementary schools might utilize the solar farm as a potential field trip where students could actually go see the solar panels and understand like how they work and how they function rather than just learning from them in a textbook. I'm currently enrolled in AP Environmental Science and a solar farm unit we just had a test on. So it'd be pretty cool to see what we're learning about in a textbook in real life, or even this could be like a walking trail. And I really do believe that solar is the way of the future. So, this is just more about our club, what we stand for. This is our Instagram page. We really just post anything that is going on. As you can see, we have a few things about this current project. and we have 136 followers. Even students not even from Oceanside are following us because we just are also promoting environmental awareness through our digital community.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rebecca. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Jill Weber now. She's going to talk a little bit about what the town of Hempstead is doing during this process, and then follow it up with some frequently asked questions that we might ask for some help from Jessica Ensman or George Paval from All Our Energy. Take it away, Jill.
Thank you. How you doing? Can you see me? I'm not muted. Well, I don't know if I'm showing up there, but hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you.
So can you hear me? Okay, great. I don't know what happened to the visual. So the town of Hempstead was interested in looking at the feasibility of bringing more green energy opportunities within the town. And they commissioned a study. They hired a consultant to basically take a look around the town to see where viable projects would be to bring in wind and principally solar throughout the town. And that was recently completed, and the study is being reviewed now. One of the big projects that was included in that study is the Oceanside landfill. And that's sort of what piqued our interest, because it seemed like like what Rebecca said, and we've all said, it would be a nice thing to counterbalance the Barrett project plant on one side of Long Beach Road with a green energy project on the other side of Long Beach Road that really could be sort of something that you could really point to as forward thinking and opportunity for learning. So right now this is being studied by the various departments throughout the town. We've been talking with the town of Hempstead supervisor's office as well as Councilman D'Esposito's office, and they will continue to work with us as well to keep us posted on what the status of the project is. But the more support and the more interest, I think that would show that there's a lot of interest from the community. I'm from Oceanside, and I would love to see something like this in the town, in the area, that we could really point to and be the role models for the whole South Shore. So we seek to prioritize the Oceanside landfill project amongst the other projects. One of the reasons being, besides that I live here and I would love to see this happen sooner than later, it's the one project that brings in a lot of money to the town. When an RFP is issued, it will be to study the feasibility of the engineering to see what are the concerns about the landfill would, if there would be any. Also, it would give us a sense of what we can do. We could even prioritize to make sure education is built in, as well as improving landscaping, making it sightly, just to give opportunities for other things besides just the solar panels. And that could all be built into an RFP when the project is studied. All right, next slide. So the first question is that a lot of people might be thinking, is it safe? And while we don't have all the answers yet, because obviously this needs to be studied further, we've talked about some of the other places around the state. There are currently 7 in New York State of solar fields on landfills. And we think that the town would be able to do the necessary studies to make sure it's also safe. Currently, there's an infrastructure in place. So, you could pull in right off of Long Beach Road. It used to be a landfill, so you have the wherewithal to drive in and out. So there wouldn't be any backup on the road or anything like that. Options other than landfills. And this is something that we're most interested in seeing, but we haven't heard anything else from the town about what they might be interested in doing. But you could possibly do more than one thing on the landfill. For example, maybe you could have access to the water and have a boat ramp, or you could have some trails, like we mentioned before, so that you could have a closer visual. It could be landscaped with native plantings. So there's other things that could be done besides just the panels themselves.
Jill, if you don't mind, while you're going through these frequently asked questions, we have a few questions in the chat.
Okay.
Would you mind me throwing those out? Because I think they kind of overlap here a little bit, but I want to see if we can get some answers on this stuff. So one of the questions was is the proposed solar project able to replace the peaker plant? Will it replace it completely, or will it just use part? Will it diminish it? I mean, how does that work? Do we know yet?
It's up to the other folks in the group, and maybe George would know, or Jessica, do you have anything to add about that?
Yeah, hi. This is George Poval from All Our Energy. We are a Long Island-based environmental organization. I just wanted to let you know that we have, nothing to do with actually a proposal to do this, but we are in favor. Being an environmental organization that focuses on energy issues, this would definitely not completely eliminate the Barrett power plant, but it will make a huge step towards doing that, because it will be generating all of its electricity right at the peak time, and that's why there's a peaker plant. The Barrett is considered a peaker plant, and a solar farm will be creating electricity, excuse me, right at the peak time during summer days in the afternoon when everybody has their air conditioners on. So it would go a very long way to displacing it. But there are other things that are coming along that will also help displace it as well. So there is an offshore wind farm that's being put together that will connect somewhere near the Barrett power plant. And that definitely will probably be the end of the Barrett power plant.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Because that would be a huge project that would, be millions of homes would be being fed by offshore wind.
Okay, got it. Like I said, I don't want to take away too much from Jill. I just where we have some of these that cross. I just also, am I correct that there is no formal proposal at this point? The town of Hempstead is still looking at it. So, for instance, there was a question about whether there would be publicly transparent environmental reviews. That would be the next step, and that would be through the town, correct?
Right, so I'm not speaking for the town or for the engineering department, the Department of Public Works, that would probably be initiating the project. But anything that they would do, a full study would have to be done to make sure this is the right space and it could really support this type of a development.
Okay, and then there was a statement before, I think Jay mentioned it, that there was a developer, and the question is how is the developer benefiting from the solar panels? Since he's paying the town of Hempstead a fee, are they then in turn selling the solar power? Is that how they make the money?
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. They sell the solar energy to PSEG-LI. If they remain our power company, there's some doubt about that, but they pay them. The price has to be high enough so that they can make a profit out of it. Now, if the price of solar gets too low, which has been happening, the price of solar is going down to about 16 cents a kilowatt hour. And what they do is they install a tariff. There's a tariff that can be installed by the town that will increase that price. So it's almost like a subsidy that goes to the developer. And he would make enough money or profit on that, and it would make it worth his while to develop it. I mean, he's very interested in doing it. It's just a matter of getting there's a consulting firm that's working on this to see what the feasibility, doing a feasibility study on it. And they've been doing it for the past 2.5 years.
Okay. I'm not going to go through all the questions right now. I just wanted to, but the one other, because I think this covers some of the areas. You mentioned that this would go on about 50 acres. Does anybody on the panel know how many acres the entire landfill complex is? Okay, because I think one of the questions was, can there be other uses for it? And then the big one is for the neighbors that live behind it. Would the solar panels be put in a place where they would be able to be seen from the neighbors, the residential neighbors, as opposed to the street?
So all of those things would be something that could be considered in the design. I don't know the full size of the landfill, but when a design is proposed, and this is years away yet, because first you need to do some more study, that would be something that would be shared with the community.
Okay, all right, because I did see on some of the ones with images that it looked like the solar panels were just on the top of the landfill and not like on the sides that we would be in somebody's backyard. But okay, I apologize, Jill. Go back onto your frequently asked questions, and we'll come back. Every question that's in the chat will be asked by the time we're done.
Okay, so yeah, I'm finishing up on this slide, and so the question is, do you have to see it? And I think we just answered that one. You know, it does have to point in the right direction of the sun. So and be generate enough power to make it worth the while of the developer. And so we have to see about that once it's designed. And it is not noisy. It doesn't make any noise. Okay, next slide. I think this is our last slide. Oh, this is another. I think we already talked about the money to build the field would come from the developer. It won't come out of the taxpayers' dollars. And perhaps within the RFP, something could be issued besides money for the town, but maybe something more specific, just to Oceanside. Anything from roads to improvements within the park system or other things could be proposed by perhaps the civic, and we can go from there.
And the last slide here is really just about, if this is something that you do support, there's a way to access the petition. There's a link. We already have about 1,500 signatures, but this is something obviously that affects a lot of people within the town. And so you can contact your local councilman, Esposito, with any questions that you have. I did speak to his office today, and they're more than ready to receive any kind of calls or emails concerning your thoughts on this. So they did ask me to relay that information. Supervisor Clave is another person you could reach out to as well. Again, if you have questions, concerns about this project.
I'm gonna go back into some of the questions. One of the issues that we saw a lot on social media, and Keith and some others have mentioned it in the chat, is that it's our understanding that there's still a significant amount of methane in this landfill. I was under the impression that the methane was being pumped across the street to the Barrett plant. First of all, does anybody know on this panel, do you know, is that accurate? And then B, if we close the Barrett plant, what happens to the methane that builds up? And then the C question is, does solar electricity generated from solar mix with methane? It would seem that they wouldn't. And do we know how that's protected? Anybody?
I don't know 100%. I was looking that up today to see if there are solar fields that also try to capture methane at the same time. And I think it's something, again, that has to be looked at when they're deciding on how to design the whole thing. One of the solar panels typically last about 20 years. And what I saw today was that methane capture for a capped landfill typically goes about the same time. So again, that just might be something to consider to create a solar array that also captures the methane that's escaping from the landfill as well. So that's still just to be decided.
Okay. And as far as this project goes, obviously that's a key thing, because what we have been told, okay, and it's always, somebody told somebody, is that this landfill is still settling, and that this landfill still is providing a fair amount of methane. So that's those, again, if it's not for, obviously it's not for this panel, but that's certainly a question that would have to be raised with the town as they do their due diligence.
Right. The report that was created by the consultants that the town of Hempstead hired, it was the main part was just to kind of name all the different places within the town of Hempstead where solar panels might be a good fit.
Okay.
And so that's where they're at in terms of deciding, like, yes, does this make sense or does it not, to all of the different council people who are, overseeing their own district, have to work with the departments like engineering and parks, et cetera, to decide, yes, this is a good idea. Then the next step, I think, is the RFP process, where engineers will say, okay, well, certain things will have to take place, such as making sure, that, yes, the landfill has settled completely, that there's no leaching of any sort of chemicals anywhere. And that kind of goes all into the whole design process as well.
Right,
Uh,
and then and again the same thing with the methane. If it's still producing methane, that methane has to either be captured or it winds up in the air, which is just as bad as if it was being burnt over at the Barrett station.
Mhm.
Well, can I add something to that?
Oh, sure.
There, I'm sure people have know about or have visited the Norman J. Levy Preserve. That was a landfill in Merrick, and they've built something that is a prototype that is incredible. People come from all over the world to look at what we did to that landfill.
Right.
You know, it has forests on it, it has animals in it, and 26 different species of birds. And they don't seem to have problems with methane leakage.
Um, Jay, I fully understand that. I think, though, that that's one of the things we talked, Jill in her presentation had mentioned other uses for the landfill. And I think there are some people in Oceanside certainly that would like to see something like that, the one that's in Merrick here, either in addition to, in conjunction with, or instead of the solar field. So obviously that's something that would have to be discussed down the line. Jackie gave us several. So she said, how will this impact the electricity costs of the Oceanside homeowners? To your knowledge, anybody on the panel, would this electricity benefit remain here in Oceanside, or would that be spread out throughout all of the electric companies' ratepayers?
So I think I'll speak to that real quick. There's a couple of different ways that it can go. So if a developer were to do a standard procedure where they, basically rented the land and sold the solar off, that would go one way. But there's one way that could be done that would be hugely beneficial to the community, which is a community solar project, where basically you would get, there's thousands and thousands of homeowners and co-op and condo renters who can't put solar on their roof, who would now have access to solar energy on a community style project to get, they would get like solar credits on their electric bill. So it would essentially be using solar power. And so that's one of the types of projects that could work there, which would then, of course, directly benefit everybody in Oceanside, because it would be open to anybody. You wouldn't have to have solar on your house anymore. So that's one of the type of benefits that could happen.
Next question here was, I have read about solar panels leaching toxic materials. Can somebody speak to that issue?
Never heard of that. Sorry.
Okay. Question about whether we have a point person who would be one of our elected officials. That would be Anthony D'Esposito. He would be the person, I would think. Keith here, there's also a gas from the landfill that leaches into the bay. That I don't know that has an issue with this project, but again, the question is, if the landfill is still generating methane, regardless whether it goes over to Barrett or whether it goes into the water or wherever else, it's certainly something that would have to get dealt with.
Yeah, and I think, and maybe I'll ask Jill this question, but when it comes to, by the time the town decides on what they're going to do, I think there's a period where there's public comments where people can ask these types of questions, and at that point where they're probably far into the understanding of how the thing is going to be built, they'll probably be able to answer these questions much better. It's kind of hard to answer questions like that without really having done a full scientific study of the land.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next question was the business model. Actually, I guess it's a comment. The business model proposed was for solar and battery output to generate income via community solar. This is an existing LIPA tariff. Does that sound right to the panel?
Yeah, I think that comment is from the person who Jay quoted before, David Sheeran from
All right.
Empower Solar.
Got it.
So
sorry, I didn't recognize it. Has anybody looked into the impact to wildlife? Would the solar panels have an impact to the wildlife that is now settled in the landfill?
also, that would have to be dealt with in whatever environmental impact statements and other project review that would have to be done. We don't really 100% know the answer to that, although I would suspect the answer is very little to none, but obviously there would have to be a review.
Okay. Am I correct, and this goes a little bit off topic, am I correct that there are farmers that are able to plant underneath and around solar panels?
Yes, on that Zoom meeting I was on yesterday, there definitely were. In fact, they had in this Morris Ridge solar panel farm, which was built on a landfill, they had sheep grazing around the solar panels and resting in the shade of the solar panels. And as I said, they did bring native plants. I don't know if I mentioned that. They brought native plants into the area where they were able to build an apiary where bees would be able to pollinate flowers and plants, and they were able to have a little honey business going with the local BOCES. And you know, I guess that could be done. I mean, you know, that's the thing. There are a lot. There's another landfill in Suffolk called Blydenburg landfill, and if people are interested in seeing how they're managing their landfill and if there's any leakage of methane gas or any other kind of toxin, that they should call the Suffolk County Department of Engineering and find out if there's any problem with their landfill. I think the one in Blydenburg, in the town of Brookhaven, that's where it's located, in the town of Brookhaven, became defunct about the same time as the Oceanside landfill. So, you know, there's that possibility to call them and find out.
All right. For my new friend Lori, who lives lives over on Alona, she's obviously very concerned about the aesthetics of this, as well as the safety issues, which you guys have said the town would have to look at. I guess my next question is, the solar panels themselves, approximately how far off the ground are they placed at the height? So, for instance, could trees and shrubbery be installed that would shield it from the residents to the east of the landfill?
I would like to answer that. I think that I don't know if things could be put like at the solar panels to keep you from seeing them, but I would think a good neighbor policy might be to put them closer to your house. That would probably not be in the way. It also depends on which direction your house faces. I would guess the majority of the panels would probably be on the south side and south facing areas. So it would depend on where exactly your house is, but I'm sure that you know, shrubbery could be you know, kept that's currently not allowing you to see certain things.
Okay.
You know, that would all be part of the planning process.
Right.
So we would just have to see.
And I think if the key thing for Lori and for the other neighbors would be to see, my guess, I mean, I know 50 acres sounds like a lot, but my guess is that landfill area is significantly larger, and it doesn't sound like this would be on a huge amount of the footprint. But we can. That's one of the good things about being in a library. We can get information, so we're going to effort that information.
Well, one of the questions, one of the things you brought up was the fact that they would be able to put trees. I don't think trees would do very well growing next to solar panels. You'd be blocking the sun. So.
Well, no, but I obviously not right on top of them. But again, if the panels were on the top and then down the south side, which is away from the residents, and plantings were done on the east, that would just block, you know, again, I don't know how tall these solar panels are. Do they come 6 feet off the ground? Do they come 30 feet off the ground? That was one of the questions I asked. Mm-hmm. We have a question here. How long would this process take to get to completion?
Well, in one of them, the one in Mount Kisco, they said that it took 2 years. And it provided the 200 local construction jobs over a period of 2 years.
Okay. We have a question here, or a comment, I guess, that solar panels use rare earth minerals, and that these are not mined now in the United States. So these would all have to be imported primarily from China. Is that accurate?
That would depend on the developer. There's still American-made units that are still used. I would guess that whoever is the developer would probably have that under consideration, and would also be very interested though in, you know, the best quality, highest output for the lowest price. So they could possibly be from China no matter what.
Okay.
But we could, you know, it's also something that could be up for discussion.
Okay. I think we may have answered this already, but Brian asks, what plans are there for wildlife surveys and monitoring? How will impacts on migratory birds be minimized or mitigated, such as the lake effect? And also, does the current system of pipes filled with methane pose a danger in conjunction or near a solar field?
So I think, I don't know, I've never heard that the Oceanside landfill is supplying any gas to the Barrett power plant. They
It
probably
is.
have mitigation measures in place. I mean, I don't know, we'll have to talk to the town and find out, but I've never heard that they're pumping gas over to the power plant. I do not believe that that's correct.
Okay, if it's not correct, it is certainly a one of those understood facts of the community. So that, but certainly that's something that the town would have to consider as they proceed forward. The same thing on some of these other landfill projects. Was there any, to your knowledge, was there any kind of wildlife monitoring put in place?
I haven't heard of any. I can't imagine the wildlife having too big of a problem not flying into a non-moving object. We could look into that, and I'll take a look and see what we can find out.
Great, thank you, George. We have a comment here that there are only 234 days of sunlight in our area. In the winter, the sun shines an average of only 8 hours a day. Does that affect the viability of this project?
I would say that there would be plans for building battery storage. You know, during the warmer months, during the summer months when we have a lot of sunshine, that solar power can be stored in batteries, and I'm not really sure how long you could keep it. It's stored in batteries, but it's been done. It's been done.
Okay. Eileen asks, and Eileen, I think this was answered already, but I'm going to ask the panel. Her question is, have there been other landfills used as solar farms? And if so, what issues are they having? Would we be able to get a list? Could somebody email it to me? We can share it on the library and the Alliance Facebook pages, a list of the other landfills that now have solar farms.
Oh, sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
we could do
All
that.
right, so Eileen will get you that answer. Guy points out that the Oceanside landfill is one site recommended by a recent study. That's the one I believe that you guys mentioned. Let's see, Lori, I think I've talked to them about your situation here. There's an interesting question from Judy. Would the panels be fixed, or are they able to swivel and turn to follow the sun?
They're probably, we would have to see what a developer would propose based on what is economically best outcome, but I would imagine that they would be fixed. Having a moving system is just adding moving parts to something that doesn't necessarily really add to your long-term maintenance, keeping down your maintenance costs over 20 years. You don't want moving parts like that, I would think.
Okay, thank you. Keith makes a lot of interesting historical comments in the chat. I'll leave it for people to read, but he notes that over time, back in the 60s, there were vegetables that grew in the landfill, and people would come, particularly poor people, would come and harvest those. Michael tells us that that it's 137 acres. So this would be about 50 out of the 137.
Yeah, I just to speak on that issue a little bit more, I believe that you would really have to keep mostly to the top of it. But we would have to see what was actually proposed. But if you get too far down one side, then you're not going to have sunlight for a portion of the day. It might not be financially feasible.
Okay. Anthony asks, and I kind of touched on this, but let's nail this down. How is the power generated from the solar farm during the day planned to be stored and used during the night when electricity demand is the greatest? And I don't know if that's you can talk to that statement. And what energy storage solutions is the town exploring, if any, to your knowledge?
Yeah, so because the project is still being proposed, I know that the actual site itself, that they did put a storage area there. But again, it's not finalized, so we don't want to say that it's definitely going to be there or not. But I think that the goal is to have battery storage so that they can, use that power at nighttime for sure.
Okay. Brian comments that birds view solar installations as water and are known to land on them. I've heard the same thing. But it's certainly solar panels don't cause the damage that the wind turbines do to birds. I guess it's the difference between landing on them and getting shredded by them. Lori asks, is there a risk of fire caused by the combination of the methane that we have here and the generation of the electricity?
As we mentioned before, there are quite a few landfills with solar panels on them, and there hasn't been a problem. I've never ever heard of anything like that happening.
Okay. Tara tells us that the Kings Park landfill has solar here on here on Long Island. Lori, I know that you want to show the view from the house. It just may be more appropriate when it comes time for the town and seeing where the placement is. But that's certainly a concern, as I've mentioned, about the impact of the aesthetics on the local. Let's see. Judy says moving parts would optimize the amount of solar that could be captured. David tells us that the battery system injects during the peak summer hours. The peak is 3 to 7 p.m. June through September. And I think that, let's see, do I have any more? Anybody else have anything else that they want to question? Want to throw it in the chat? Let's see. Yeah, Keith says, look at the landfill and you will see white pipes sticking up. Those are methane pipes. I know for a fact that there are methane releases back in there. But like I said, we can check that out. But my understanding was that some of that was pumped across to the Barrett station.
Many times the methane is captured for study, but it's not actually used. I've worked around a lot of other landfills that the methane doesn't get reused. I'd be surprised if this one was doing that.
Yeah, I think the white pipes that you see are just like the vent pipe that comes out of your house roof that vents your, your sewage drainage so that there isn't smells and the buildup of methane. I think that that's pretty much all that they do. I'm almost 100% certain that there is not any gas being captured at that site that's being reused in any kind of way.
All right. Well, like I said, I think Anthony asked why is this project taking so long to get where it is today? And is there any way to streamline the process to get this done faster and more efficiently? I don't know Anthony, whether you're talking about this particular project or any of these projects. Anybody here have any comment on that?
I think the main thing here is to keep your constituents aware that this is something that's important to you. And I think because, when the project was first initially conceived and at the end of 2018 and then through 2019, there was the time for the consultants to perform the study. And then I think they were planning on moving forward probably a little bit quicker, and then COVID happened. So that kind of slowed everything down. Yeah, I think as long as we continue to talk to the town of Hempstead and folks who are interested in seeing this project come to fruition are speaking up, then the town will move as quickly as they probably can. But again, we can't really speak for them. But I know that just like with anything else, that they keep it top of mind, then chances are the movement of the project will happen quicker.
Okay. Joyce, would you like to say anything before I wrap it up here?
Okay, I have to unmute and start the video. Just that I appreciate all the information. Apparently, there's still a lot of unknowns for this project. And in principle, it sounds like a great idea. We just have to see if it works in practice.
Yeah, I want to join with Joyce. I want to thank the Oceanside Civic Alliance Association for co-hosting this and for joining with us in this. I want to thank all of the panelists, Rebecca especially, for presenting this. This was a very informative and a very fair presentation. And I think for the community members that are here, we can see that there are areas that that need to be discussed and things to be taken into account as the town starts its process. And the fact that we're able to do this so early in the process, where there's actually not even necessarily a plan yet, is certainly a highlight. We'll be forwarding a recording of this to Councilman D'Esposito. He asked us that we would do that, and so that they'll be able to see the various questions that people have and the concerns that people have and the information that this community will need in order to make an informed decision. But again, I want to thank the panel very much. I want to thank everybody for coming out. And I think this was a really a wonderful program to have here on our Earth Day week. So with that, I want to thank everybody for coming out, and we look forward to seeing you at the library.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks
you.
for having
Thanks
us.
so much for having us.
Yep.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
And thanks for your
Take care.
questions, everybody.
Happy Earth Month.
Absolutely. Be well, everyone.
Okay, and stop.